Everyone, you're not gonna believe it. Nissan has finally updated the Murano for 2025 after a decade. Now, there are a lot of questions floating around here outside of Franklin, Tennessee. What took so long? Why does it kind of look like a Kicks and a Ferrari Daytona had a baby? And why should I buy it? Now, Nissan has subtly repositioned the Murano for this 4th generation by making it more of a rolling spa on wheels, a semi-premium offering, if you will, with a lot of high-end features that are pretty darn rare in this segment and at this price point. So we're going to take this for a drive to see how it compares to established competitors like the Subaru Outback, new up-and-comers like the Toyota Crown Signia, or even its siblings like the already excellent Nissan Rogue. So let's get going. So this Murano is basically the same size as the one before. It's changed by about an inch. It's packed on a couple 100 pounds because what car hasn't these days after a decade? But it also has dropped the V6, and the V6 is the only engine the Murano's ever had. So this is a big change, but power is roughly the same as before. In fact, the numbers have just kind of swapped for horsepower and torque. So you're looking at a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with 241 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque hooked up to a 9-speed automatic transmission. Yes, the CVT is mercifully dead. Now, American buyers can get front or all-wheel drive, but in Canada, it's just the latter, which is a pretty common trend these days. You get slightly better fuel economy, not quite as much as you might expect because, like I said earlier, this has packed on more weight. There are a lot of niceties in this car that you didn't get in the previous generation. The massaging seats are activated with a little button down on the side of the seat. You just press it, you can adjust the settings in the touchscreen, and it's actually pretty noticeable, but it's noticeable in more ways than one. Not only is it kneading your back, you hear them. They're pretty noisy. So, I mean, if you're playing music, maybe it's fine. But if you're driving around in silence while filming a video for YouTube, you do tend to hear them. Now, the cabin is a very nice place to spend time, at least up front. Nissan has taken a few cues from the Aria and applied them here with the touch capacitive buttons that are inlaid in the wood down in the lower bit of the dashboard. That's really nice. I like how it looks. I know I should hate buttons like this that aren't true physical buttons, but it looks really good. Nissan has also added a little bit of trim on the main dashboard that is inspired by the name of this vehicle. Murano is an island in Italy that specializes in blown glass, and so this subtly changes color from blue to more of a tan, goldy look on the far side, and it's a nice thing. It adds a little bit of uniqueness and character to the cabin. There's this wraparound dashboard, which again adds more of a cockpit vibe than the more straightforward Rogue. It feels good, there's nice textures here and there, but the odd thing for me is that it only really applies up front. The seats in the back look good, but the center console in particular feels very cheap. Okay, so I've talked enough about the interior. I also should quickly mention that the space is pretty good in the back because the seats are pretty low. In fact, the cushion is maybe a little too low for adults, but it's not bad back there. And then storage space is fine, but of course that stylish shape means that it eats into ultimate height. Now, I do have to say, I really like how this looks, although a few colleagues and I have been talking during this event that it's not quite as distinctive as we expect of a Murano. You have to remember that even when the Murano first debuted over 20 years ago, it was shocking. Nothing else looked like it on the road. And that even continued with the last generation model too, until it stuck around for a decade. This one is handsome, it's restrained, it's very slightly bigger than the old model, but it doesn't look it. Now, there are huge 21-inch alloy wheels on this top Platinum model, and big wheels have been a Murano tradition, so that makes a lot of sense. The nose does have some family resemblance with, you know, this lower section, the new evolution of Nissan's traditional V-Motion grille, and yeah, some Ferrari elements with this trim piece between the headlights. It says Murano, just in case you forgot what you were looking at. I really, really like this Aurora blue paint too. There are some other ones, but this is definitely the hero choice. Around back, there's full width taillights. It's a pretty classy looking affair, and I mean, that's part of Nissan's whole thing this generation, is it wants to make this more of a elegant choice. It's not really sporty anymore. I do really like this one arching bit of chrome for the roofline. It's one continuous arc. I really think that's an elegant piece here, and it also ties it to the Nissan Z, which actually does feel like a bit of an unlikely comparison since that's Nissan's sports car. And it's getting very windy, so maybe I should just stop talking about design now. So how does the Murano drive? If you're paying extra over a Rogue, you should be getting something more than just stylish looks out of it, right? Well, you do get an extra cylinder, an extra half-liter of displacement, more power, and hopefully that power does come with regular fuel. You don't have to put premium in this. It does drive pretty well. It's well-mannered, it's pretty quiet, although these are very smooth roads out here. But the ride isn't great. It's not bad either, but you're on huge 21-inch alloy wheels, so you feel and hear bumps. It's pretty quick. This is a pre-prod unit, and so there are some unusual features in the transmission. I can get it to kick down with just a quick tap, but again, it's a pre-prod. Things will probably change once we get regular production units down the road. It just kind of exists. There's nothing bad. The Murano doesn't set a foot wrong, but it's not very inspiring. It doesn't feel remotely sporty, whereas the old one at least tried to. And Nissan is making a conscious decision to move away from that, and like I said, make this feel more premium, but it just doesn't seem to land for me. Fuel economy is also not great. That's because Nissan just doesn't have any hybrids to work with, whereas Toyota, of course, has them in pretty much everything. In America, the entry-level front-drive Murano SV starts at $41,860, including destination. Adding all-wheel drive tacks on another $1,000. Moving up to the mid-level SL adds a further $5,000 to the sticker, while this range-topping Platinum stickers for $50,999. In Canada, the Murano SV kicks off the lineup at $48,898, including destination. Then there's a $4,000 jump to the mid-level SL, and that same gap to the $56,898 Platinum you see here. At the end of the day, I understand where Nissan is coming from by updating the Murano, and I am happy to finally see it newer. It's stylish. There is such a demand for SUVs these days that it can plug a gap between the Rogue and Pathfinder and carve out a niche and have a unique character that's just different from all of its siblings. That's great, but outside of the Nissan bubble, there are a lot of compelling choices that I would probably check out quite seriously before taking the dive on this. But the real challenge is that the Rogue is just so good these days, and coming soon it will get an updated, more fuel-efficient powertrain. So in my mind, unless you are really sold on the looks or the added luxury features like these massage seats, maybe just go for the more practical Nissan choice.